The grey waters of the North Atlantic often hold the ghosts of history. Iron hulls resting silently beneath the waves, each with stories of courage, tragedy, and transformation. Among them, few names evoke such a sharp turn in naval warfare as HMS Sheffield. Commissioned in the 1970s, she embodied Britain's technological ambition, sleek, modern, and built for the digital age of missiles and radar. Yet, her fate would also mark a painful awakening. The day when ships no longer fought ship to ship with cannons, but when invisible, supersonic threats struck from the horizon. For the Royal Navy, Sheffield was more than a vessel. She was a symbol of post-war rebirth, a promise that Britain could still project power across distant seas. And when she sailed into the South Atlantic in 1982, few could have imagined that her story would become a defining moment, not only for the Falklands War, but for naval strategy worldwide. The tragedy of HMS Sheffield reshaped the understanding of vulnerability at sea and marked the dawn of a new, unforgiving era: missile warfare. The 1970s were a time of change for the Royal Navy. The grand fleets of World War II were long gone. The massive battleships and aircraft carriers had been retired or scrapped. In their place came a new generation of leaner, more efficient warships designed not for massive gun duels, but for electronic detection, missile strikes, and anti-submarine patrols. The Cold War defined this period. Britain's naval focus shifted toward the North Atlantic, where NATO forces sought to counter the Soviet submarine threat. The Type 42 destroyer, to which HMS Sheffield belonged, was conceived during this tense period. Its mission: to protect the larger fleets, particularly aircraft carriers, from enemy aircraft and missiles. The Royal Navy envisioned a fleet of these destroyers as a defensive shield, vast, compact, and equipped with radar-guided missile systems, capable of shooting down aerial threats before they could strike. At the same time, Britain was facing economic hardship and political turbulence. Defense budgets were shrinking, forcing the Admiralty to make compromises in design and capability. Yet, amid these constraints, HMS Sheffield emerged as a proud representative of a modern Royal Navy, one that would soon be tested in combat for the first time in decades. The story of HMS Sheffield begins in the shipyards of Barrow-in-Furness, where it was laid down by Vickers, Shipbuilding and Engineering Limited in January 1970. Named after the industrial city of Sheffield, a proud tradition linking Royal Navy ships to the steel heart of Britain, she was the lead ship of her class, the first of what would become 14 Type 42 destroyers built for the fleet. At 125 meters, 410 feet in length, and displacing around 4,800 tons fully loaded, Sheffield was smaller than earlier destroyers. But she embodied efficiency and technological advancement. Her silhouette was sharp and angular, designed for speed and minimal radar reflection. Her propulsion system combined two Rolls-Royce Olympus gas turbines, the same type used in Concorde aircraft, giving her a top speed of 30 knots and remarkable maneuverability for her size. Her crew, numbering around 287 officers and sailors, lived in cramped but modern quarters. They were surrounded by the newest technology of the era: radar consoles, sonar systems, and an operations room filled with glowing screens and the hum of electronic warfare equipment. Yet, despite the sophistication, Sheffield's design reflected compromise. Her hull was lightweight, her aluminum superstructure vulnerable to heat, and her defensive systems limited in close-range protection. The centerpiece of her armament was the Sea Dart missile system, a long-range surface-to-air weapon designed to engage high-speed aircraft and incoming missiles. Controlled by advanced radar and computer targeting, the Sea Dart represented a leap into electronic warfare, replacing the heavy gun turrets of old with guided precision. In addition, Sheffield carried a 4.5-inch Mark 8 naval gun for surface engagements and 2 anti-submarine torpedo tubes. But beneath the sleek design and the pride of her crew, hidden weaknesses lingered. The lack of adequate point defense systems, such as close-in guns or anti-missile countermeasures, would prove devastating in the years to come. At the time, few could foresee that the very technology Sheffield represented would soon turn against her. After her launch on June 10, 1971 and commissioning in February 1975, HMS Sheffield entered service as the pride of the Royal Navy's modern fleet. Her crest bore the Yorkshire Rose and a proud motto, "Forged in fire." It was a poetic symbol of strength, but one that would, tragically, take on a literal meaning before her story was done. When HMS Sheffield entered active duty in the mid-1970s, she was regarded as one of the Royal Navy's most capable surface combatants. She became the flagship of the 5th Destroyer Squadron and often operated alongside aircraft carriers such as HMS Ark Royal and HMS Invincible. Her duties included NATO exercises, North Atlantic patrols, and goodwill visits to ports across the world. In peacetime, life aboard Sheffield followed the rhythm of drills, watch rotations, and training exercises. Her crew took pride in the precision of her operations. The synchronized routines of missile loading, radar tracking, and communication drills that symbolized the discipline of the Royal Navy. She embodied Britain's commitment to defending NATO's sea lanes and maintaining a visible presence on the world's oceans. Yet, by the early 1980s, Britain's naval doctrine had begun to shift. The government sought to reduce defense spending and even considered retiring certain warships early. No one imagined that within months, the Royal Navy would be fighting its most intense conflict since the Second World War, in a remote corner of the South Atlantic. In April 1982, Argentina invaded the Falkland Islands, a small British territory more than 8,000 miles from the United Kingdom. The act shocked Britain and set in motion a rapid military response. Within days, Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher authorized the creation of a naval task force, a fleet that would sail halfway around the world to reclaim the islands. Among the ships selected for this mission was HMS Sheffield. Her role was crucial. As an air defense destroyer, she would guard the aircraft carriers Hermes and Invincible, providing a shield against enemy aircraft and missiles. On April 10th, Sheffield departed Portsmouth as part of the 3R-17 task group. The mood aboard was a mix of pride and unease. The crew understood they were heading into uncertain waters, far from home, into a conflict few had anticipated. As the task force steamed south, the crew settled into a new rhythm of long days and sleepless nights. Radar operators scanned the skies constantly, tracking potential threats. Engineers worked around the clock to keep the ship's turbines humming at peak performance. The South Atlantic grew colder, the seas rougher, and the tension thicker. The sailors of Sheffield could not have known that their destroyer would soon become a symbol of both bravery and vulnerability in modern warfare. May 4th, 1982, the attack. The day of the attack began quietly. The weather was clear, the sea calm, the kind of deceptive serenity that sometimes precedes disaster. HMS Sheffield was operating about 70 miles southeast of the Falklands, maintaining a picket position to detect incoming Argentine aircraft. Her task, to serve as the early warning ship for the fleet behind her. At 10:04 a.m., two Argentine Navy super-Etendard jets took off from their base near Rio Grande, each armed with a French-made Exocet AM-39 anti-ship missile, one of the most advanced sea-skimming weapons of its time. The pilots, Captain Augusto Bedacaraz and Lieutenant Armando Mayora, flew low over the ocean to avoid radar detection. Guided by aerial refueling and precise navigation, they approached the British fleet undetected. At 10:50 a.m., Sheffield's radar operators picked up a faint signal. Some aboard believed it to be interference or a friendly aircraft. Communications were busy. The ship's crew was relaying messages between vessels when, suddenly, the radar screen flashed, a brief, unmistakable trace of an incoming missile. There was little time to react. Within seconds, one of the Exocet missiles locked onto Sheffield's radar signature and struck her starboard side. The impact tore through the hull just below the operations room, detonating inside the ship. The explosion ruptured fuel tanks, igniting massive fires. Acrid smoke filled the passageways as sailors scrambled to save their ship. The missile's warhead exploded deep within the destroyer's structure, instantly disabling power and communications. The ship's aluminum superstructure melted and buckled under the intense heat. Flames raced through the compartments, feeding on the jet fuel that had spilled from ruptured tanks. Sailors fought bravely with hoses and extinguishers, but the inferno spread faster than they could contain it. Visibility dropped to near zero as thick, toxic smoke choked the air. The heat was unbearable. In the chaos, the crew attempted to reach trapped comrades and seal off burning sections. Many suffered burns and smoke inhalation, yet they continued to fight. A desperate struggle against an unstoppable enemy, fire. By early afternoon, it was clear the ship could not be saved. At 1:30 p.m., Captain James Salt gave the order to abandon ship. One by one, sailors climbed down ropes and ladders into lifeboats and rafts, leaping into the cold Atlantic waters. Other British ships rushed to assist, pulling survivors from the sea and tending to the wounded. 20 sailors lost their lives that day, young men whose names would forever be etched into naval memory.
We must never forget.
For the survivors, the image of their ship burning on the horizon was a sight they would never forget. For 6 long hours, HMS Sheffield burned. The flames consumed her electronics, melted steel, and blackened her once proud hull. Eventually, she was left a lifeless wreck, drifting aimlessly in the cold Atlantic swell. On May 10th, as she was being towed north, the sea claimed her completely. She slipped beneath the waves, coming to rest at a depth of nearly 2,800 meters. The loss of Sheffield was a devastating blow to the Royal Navy and to the British public. She was the first British warship sunk in combat since World War II, a stark reminder that even modern technology could not guarantee safety in warfare. Her destruction exposed critical vulnerabilities in ship design and led to an urgent re-evaluation of naval tactics, materials, and missile defense systems. In the years that followed, the lessons of HMS Sheffield echoed across the world's navies. The Exocet strike demonstrated the deadly potential of anti-ship missiles, weapons that could strike from beyond the horizon, giving their targets only seconds to react. Navies worldwide began to invest heavily in electronic countermeasures, decoy systems, and close-in defense guns. For Britain, the tragedy spurred innovation. Later ships were fitted with advanced fire-resistant materials, improved radar, and automated defense systems capable of intercepting missiles. The Royal Navy also revisited its doctrine, emphasizing layered defense and constant readiness. Yet, beyond technology, Sheffield's story remained deeply human. Survivors remembered the courage of their comrades, the calm professionalism amid chaos, and the haunting silence after the fires died. Memorials were erected in Sheffield, Portsmouth, and across naval bases worldwide. Each year, ceremonies commemorate her crew, not as victims, but as men who faced the unimaginable with dignity and resolve. In 2017, a new ship, HMS Sheffield, D-88, was announced as part of Britain's next-generation Type 26 frigates, a symbolic continuation of the name and spirit. It stands as a testament that even in loss, legacy endures. The story of HMS Sheffield is not merely one of destruction, but of transformation. Her loss marked the end of an era, the twilight